what I really want to talk about is how the Elbows Up crowd are destroying Canadian businesses with their unscientific firearms bans and a bunch more. Tracey, thanks so much for coming on the show. I wanted to have you on because I saw the destruction of Sterling Arms thanks to basically the stroke of a pen of a bureaucrat somewhere. Explain this to us.
Yeah, that's right. So Sterling Arms had come out with a solution that we thought to the Liberals' gun bans. They had created a rifle that was C-21 compliant. You know, it complied with the new bans. It's similar to another firearm that ended up in the same fate. So they introduced this new rifle to the market. It was being used in sport competitions all across the country and internationally, actually. And with the stroke of a pen, it was deemed prohibited. Now, it's the problem with this is the Liberals keep using the term variant in order to ban more guns, right? So even if the gun itself should be fine, they're deeming it a variant of one that isn't. And the problem is we've asked them, the federal court has asked them, the Conservative Party has asked them. It's been a very contentious issue for years, but they won't actually define what a variant is, because then, of course, it would take away the ability to continue to attack these legal, lawful Canadian family businesses. So, yeah.
And this is the first business that this happened to. It happened with the banning of the AR-15. It happened with another firearm that was created to be compliant with the Liberals' very opaque piece of legislation. Tell us about those ones.
Yeah, that's right. So the Crusader Arms crypto was another one that ended up in the exact same place. So, you know, it was for sale in the Canadian market. It was literally designed and manufactured to be C-21 compliant, to be Canadian compliant. It was out on the market. People were buying it. People were using it. And suddenly, again, with the stroke of a pen, it was deemed prohibited. And unfortunately, these firearms, it doesn't appear. I mean, I've written to the Canadian Firearms Program and to Public Safety for clarification on this, but it doesn't appear that these will even fall under the amnesty or the buyback confiscation program that doesn't actually exist. But so what does that mean for the people who own them? Like if you've got one of these and you're not protected by the amnesty, you're in illegal possession of a prohibited device. So yeah, it's a problem. It's a situation, and it just continues to happen over and over. And meanwhile, crime and violence is raging out of control from coast to coast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people, well, I think the firearms owning community and our friends and allies understand, but these sort of bans, you can go to bed with your lawfully acquired material, property, in your gun safe. It's not doing anything. You followed all the rules, and then wake up in the morning and you are in possession of an illegal firearm because some corner bureaucrat decided this looks a little too cool. We'll just shuffle that over into the banned list.
When I saw on Twitter the FRT entry, the firearms reference table, which is where classifications of different firearms are listed, when I saw it floating around Twitter for the Sterling R9, I was like, wow, what? Like, we just were talking about this rifle the day before. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, you know, maybe somebody made this. Maybe it's fake with AI, who knows? And so I took it off Twitter and I sent it to the manufacturer. I sent it to J.R. Cox, who designed and manufactured this rifle. And I said, is this real? And he says, this is the first I'm seeing of it. It's his gun. He didn't even know. So, I mean, it's wild. And you think back through this whole thing, they started banning guns back in May of 2020 after the Nova Scotia tragedy. Throughout committee, Justin Trudeau has stood at a pulpit and said it. They said, don't worry, gun owners. There are, you know, thousands, tens of thousands of other models of firearms that you can buy. So as time has progressed since May of 2020, they've routinely banned all those guns that we've been buying to replace the ones we can't use. And yet there's still somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million rifles that are now banned, sitting safely in the safes of gun owners who've owned them safely for decades, if not generations, without issue, and not a single crime is being committed. So Yeah, I don't know where they're going with this, but it's got to stop.
Well, and there's zero accountability. Like, you don't know even who's making these decisions. I guess ultimately it's the Liberals who are accountable, but these bans are happening outside of Parliament, as just sort of a bureaucratic checkbox. You never even really know who's doing this to you outside of the Liberals making sure that the RCMP Firearms Office still has this power. But from my lips to God's ears, if the Conservatives ever get back into power, these sort of bans must go before Parliament, because you are criminalizing people with no proof, no data, no anything, and no way for us to even know who's doing it to us.
Well, and they're not notifying anyone. So
Right.
I've got all kinds of friends who own one of those rifles and they don't even know it's been banned. People are showing up at their local rod and gun clubs to shoot on a Sunday afternoon, not knowing that their gun is prohibited. What happens if they got pulled over? And that's the problem when you've got bureaucrats in the RCMP firearms lab who are making these decisions arbitrarily, telling nobody, notifying no gun owners. You know, there's not even an email that goes out. They've got our information. I send mass emails every Friday afternoon. It's very simple to do. They don't notify a single person, so people don't even know it's been banned. The guy who designed the rifle didn't even know it was banned when I sent it to him. So, you know, this isn't the way that it should work in a society where we respect our citizens. Gun owners are Canada's most vetted, trusted people, and yet we're treated like simple criminals, while actual violent criminals are being let out of jail the same day they're committing their crimes.
Yeah. I was looking at the crime stats the other day because my mother-in-law was fighting with somebody on the internet. And violent crime has gone up 40% since 2014. And yet, instead of actually directly addressing that, dealing with bail, by the way, instead, we continue to target Canadian gun owners, and low estimates put the cost of the gun grab at $343 million, like $1/3 billion. I think it is closer to Gary Mauser over at the Fraser Institute. His estimate, I don't know if you saw that, he said it might reach $6 billion.
Yeah.
I think that's probably more reasonable when you factor in the cost of policing, when you factor in the cost of identifying firearms that you don't have a clue where they are because you've decided to move them from non-restricted to prohibited. Think of how much could be fixed with $6 billion.
Yeah, well, and there's a couple of factors there that nobody's talking about. When the government came out with their, $343 million or whatever, that didn't include the cost of administrating the program, which will far outweigh the cost of any kind of compensation, which they're also lowballing. I think Bill Blair said there's 178,000 rifles out there that have been banned. Well, 97,000 of those are AR-15s. It is impossible that all the other 2,000 plus models and variants only equal up to 70,000 rifles. Like, it's impossible. We are talking anywhere, like I said, between 500,000 to 1 million guns. And the cost of administrating this, like right from the very beginning, I've said it's virtually impossible because Canada is such a wide and vast and massive country. They're in every nook and cranny of the nation, and they have no idea who's got them or where they are. And they just continue to ban more. People have given up even checking if their gun is banned. People don't even care. It's a total mess. It's impossible to do. And here we are 5 years later, and they still haven't managed, thankfully, to confiscate a single rifle from any individual. So it's obviously not an actual public safety issue. This is, leftovers from the divisive Trudeau era policies. So,
yeah. I mean, this is one of those times where I cheer for government ineptitude.
Yes.
Go be crappy, government. Make sure you don't do anything efficiently. This is one of those times where I'm strongly in favor of that. But, when you just listening to your numbers there, if we were a problem, you'd know it.
Oh, yeah.
But we're just not reflected in the crime stats at all. I wanted to talk to you about this recent La Presse article. and it's pretty clear that La Presse is catching up to the gun blog's previous reporting on
Yes.
ECOS polling data that was, I think it was done out of the Privy Council. They conducted a 148 question deep dive into the minds of lawful gun owners because I guess they're trying to pull a psyop on us. They want to know why we won't comply or
Yeah,
what
why
our
are these people
problem
so
is.
angry?
Why? And so to get better buy-in into the gun grab, and cost $100,000. And what they found was gun owners don't trust the government.
No.
Wow. I could have told you that.
Yeah, I could have saved them some money there. Yeah.
One of the things that I found a great source of pride for me was more than 2/3 of the respondents said they don't trust the feds to make good decisions about firearms in the public interest. But in Alberta, that distrust jumps to 81%.
Yeah, unsurprising.
Yeah, and then they could only find 9 people out of the 1,700 plus people that they polled who actually thought that firearms owners would 100% comply with the gun bans.
I'm surprised there's 9 people out there. They must be,
I know, it seems
maybe,
high.
yeah, older, elbows up, boomer gun owners or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, gun owners have good reason not to trust the government, right? I mean, I always talk about the social contract, so to speak, between gun owners and the government and gun owners and law enforcement. And the deal was, you go and take the courses and you submit yourself to all those background checks and the application process, and you include your spouse in that information, and they contact them to make sure that it's okay you have guns.
Yep.
If you're not married, you've got to divulge anyone you've slept with over the last 2 years. Like, it's really invasive. And then you're subjected to a 24-hour background check through CPIC. And the idea was, if you go through all this and you go through the vetting and you're trusted, you're trained, then they would leave you alone. And apparently that's not true. So some of these guns we've owned for decades, if not generations. And all of a sudden now the government's moving the goalposts. So if the idea here is we're going to have strict gun control regime, which Canada has, one of the strictest in the world, but you're going to have buy-in from gun owners after everything they've subjected themselves to just for the simple fact of wanting to own a firearm and be a hunter or sports shooter. And then you come back and say, it's still not enough. We're still going to take your stuff. I'm surprised there are 9 people out there who think that there'll be 100% buy-in, because I don't think there will be at all. I think it'll be extremely low and extremely poor. And eventually, I think they're going to have to abandon the idea altogether.
For sure. And there's a cultural divide in that data. They said 56% of Albertans, again, this is the highest number polled, said that firearms ownership is an important part of their identity and their culture. I think the gun grab fuels Western separatism. When you look at the numbers out of Saskatchewan, they said that for them it was the highest number of people who said that they are unfairly targeted by federal policy at 88% in Saskatchewan. This is for firearms owners. You look and you say, well, these people don't understand who we are, and we're being unfairly blamed for rising crime in Toronto and Montreal and Vancouver. And it's a slap in the face.